Hello, everyone. Hope your day is going well. Can you all hear me okay? Excuse me. Awesome. Let's see. Yes. And Sam, can you verify it's coming through my mic? It sounds clear, right? It's not coming through my other audio source. Yes, great. Thank you, Sam. Awesome. Well, I'll give everyone a minute or two to join. I see everyone coming into the room really quickly, so that's awesome. Hope everyone is having a good week. Oh, Lisa, you said you cannot hear me. It sounds like my audio seems to be working unless it went out again. It sounds like everyone else can hear. So you may need to change your audio source, Lisa. I don't know. Sam, maybe put that in the chat since she can't hear what I'm saying. But we will be sending this recorded version of this as well. So I know that's normally one of our first questions everyone asks. You will be receiving a recording of this within the next 24 hours once the recording processes. So you'll be able to access and see all these slides again and hear everything if you'd like to share it. So while everyone's joining, I had a quick poll that we were going to ask. I know today we're going to be covering how brands are driving sales with Reels. So I'm curious who is planning to invest more in Reels in 2023. So here's a few answers. So, okay, wow. We have couple focusing on TikTok. So we already have 25 answers, 30. Wow, yeah, a lot of people planning to invest more in Reels. That is what studies are showing. People already upped their Reels spend a lot in 2022. So I do expect that trend to continue. We'll dive into the numbers, obviously, in just a second. But yeah, interesting to see. Yeah, so 31 of you have voted yes, you do plan to invest more in Reels in 2023. Yeah, so we've been seeing that a lot on our side. While everyone's joining too, I will just give a little bit of background on myself as well. So I'm founder and CEO of Statusphere. My name is Kristen Wiley. We run these webinars. We do them monthly. So if this is your first webinar, welcome. If this is a repeat webinar for you or become a habit for you, welcome as well. We love the community that we've created around these webinars. Yep, feel free to drop in the chat if it's your first time or if this is a multi webinar attendee with us. But yeah, lovely to see you all again. So we're Statusphere. We help brands scale micro-influencer marketing, specifically helping people discover brands they love from people they trust. We've worked with over 400 brands, variety of industries, a lot in the beauty and the CPG space. A little bit about me and why I started the company. I've been in the influencer marketing space for the last 10 years, and I essentially used a lot of the solutions out there, and I didn't like how they worked. So I ended up building my own. The specific problem that we solve for that I had when I was working in the influencer marketing space before starting Statusphere was that it's really hard to scale micro influencer marketing. It takes about 70 hours just to get 30 people posting about your product, just back and forth, messaging them, building a list. People ghost you. It's just a big headache. So I wanted to create an actual marketing channel that is scalable for brands to scale this very lucrative marketing channel, an effective marketing channel. So we take that 70 hours of work, we turn it into 1 hour, and instead of getting 30 people posting, you can get hundreds of people posting. So if you are interested in chatting with our team, we're always here to chat. We definitely take a consultative approach, so we can do a discovery call and figure out if it's the right solution for you and what your needs are. And if it's not, we can also have tons of resources to help you get started on your own as well. So definitely feel free to book a time and chat with one of our influencer marketing specialists. And with that, we will jump into the webinar today that I'm really excited about. So we're going to be covering how brands are driving sales with Reels, specifically Instagram Reels basics. So we'll cover that really briefly since it seems like a lot of you are already experts or at least spending on Reels right now. Then we'll go into Reels outlook and benefits for brands, Reels versus TikTok, since that's a hot topic. Where should you be investing in? And then trends, tips, and best practices, and then real brand examples of ones that are killing it on Reels right now, which I find is always the most helpful for me personally, is seeing real world examples. So Jumping into it, first, let's do the Reels recap and overview. So, what are Reels? Unless you've been under a rock, you know what a Reel is, but it's a looping vertical video clip of up to 90 seconds, or you can even actually upload up to 15 minutes via a video upload to Instagram Reels. This model was obviously very much ripped off straight from TikTok. So, TikTok really started gaining traction in the last few years. Instagram saw that and essentially created their version of TikTok. Your Reels can be cross-posted to your main feed along with stories and even on Facebook. They also appear in Instagram's Explore page for search results, which is really interesting. And I'll talk a little bit more about how one of my predictions for 2023 and beyond is going to be the rise of social search and why it's going to become so important. Essentially, people are using platforms like Instagram and TikTok to search for things versus Google. So I think there's going to be a big change in the way that people search in the next few years and just next decade in general, and why it's so important for your brand to think about search SEO in general. And then overall, the key features of Instagram Reels are captions, Instagram music video library. So all the different music and sounds that you can put to your videos, multiple video clips that you can put together, filters, interactive backgrounds, stickers, templates, the ability to share to stories. And recently they added product tags, which we've all been kind of waiting for, and they finally added that recently. So one thing that Instagram has not been hiding is the fact that they are doubling down on Reels. So Instagram is known for launching new products and then really kind of juicing them. So whenever Instagram launches a new product that they're trying to push, essentially they will tend to give that more exposure than some of their old features. So when Instagram Reels launch, we have definitely seen that Instagram seems to be, the algorithm is really rewarding Reels content over some of the other content right now. And even the Instagram head of Instagram said Instagram is no longer a photo sharing app. He was saying it's like all video is what they want to focus on. So they're focusing to creators, videos, shopping, and messaging. And as of July of 2022, they announced that all videos on Instagram are now Reels. So they got rid of the video only feature to really push everyone to using Reels. I did see them post, actually, I think just today, a carousel that had a video in it. So I think that's the other place you can put a video. But according to their press release, yeah, all Instagram videos are now Reels. So you'll probably notice that as you're posting. So, and then Reels has its own algorithm to compete with TikTok, and it also works a little bit different than their traditional photo sharing piece of the Instagram app. So how the Reels algorithm works, there are 4 main components. So first, I wanted to cover that research shows the number one people use Instagram is to be entertained. And so ultimately, all of these algorithms are created to get people to stay on the platform and to watch more. So if the number one reason that people are using the app is to be entertained, means you need to create entertaining videos. In February 2022, Instagram shared a breakdown of how the algorithm ranks things. So these are the 4 factors. Number 1 is the viewer's activity. So what other activities they do shows them what kind of content they're going to see. So if they like something about a dog video, they're going to see more content about dog videos, for example. Very similar to TikTok's algorithm. Number 2 is the viewer's interaction history. So, well, the viewer's activity, I should say, watched a video about dogs, then they'll show more. Then viewer's interaction is if they liked it or commented or engaged with it in general. That means that they're going to see more content like that. Then they look at information about the post. So they're looking at the caption, all of the different metadata, the audio, all of that information. And then 4th is information about the author. So it's influenced by all the factors above, but this is like information about the account that is actually posted it. So who your followers are, what you have done historically in terms of the people that follow you and who has liked it. So these are the 4 main factors, but I wouldn't overanalyze these too much. At the end of the day, people want to be entertained. And if you want more of your target audience, you're going to want to entertain your target audience. So one question we get a lot is when we're focusing on Reels, but what about TikTok? So TikTok is getting obviously a lot of buzz because, Instagram is still getting a way majority of the ad spend. I think there's like 38 billion is spent in ads on Instagram, but only like 8 or 9 billion on TikTok. So TikTok's growing quickly, but Instagram still takes a bulk of brands advertising. But TikTok's growing quickly. So something that I think is interesting to see here is that TikTok's really bumped up in terms of the average time spent per day the U.S. adult user on these platforms spends. So 79% of brands running influencer campaigns still use Instagram, but TikTok is really people spend more time. Users of TikTok spend more time on TikTok than users of Instagram, but there are more users on Instagram. So there's like a trade-off there, but there are some interesting comparisons, and I will show you kind of some comparisons of TikTok and Reels just so you can, if you don't have time to do both, you can make an educated decision of which one makes sense for you. And then, yeah, lastly, consumers spend more time per day on TikTok and YouTube, 45 minutes versus Instagram, which is 30 minutes per day. So next is Reels outlook and benefit for brands. So the Reels popularity is growing quickly. I would say really in the last year, we've seen them. I think they've really tapped into the algorithm really well. Before we weren't seeing it get as great of results and reach. And lately we've been seeing Reels more consistently perform for the brands that we're working with. And you can see here just the popularity in terms of posting and usage. So that orange or coral line right there that's going up and to the right, that is Reels. And the teal line is stories. So stories has stayed pretty consistent. And then Instagram shops down at the bottom hasn't really had much inflection points, even though Instagram's trying to push it. So Reels are the fastest growing feature worldwide on Instagram. And 20% of all activity on Instagram was Reels related in Q1 of 2022, which at first sounds kind of low, but when you think about all the features that Instagram has, which is a lot of them, it's actually pretty big for a newer product on their platform. Reels engagement rose 30% in Q2, and 50% of marketers are investing in short form content for the first time in 2022. So, we've been hearing that video is king for many years, but I think we're finally at the point where it really is king, especially in marketing. And then 95% of marketers are using short form video, plan to maintain their investment. So safe to say that it is working for brands, and we could see that with our poll earlier as well. So Reels also earn more reach and engagement than other like stories and grid posts. Reels could help accounts increase their engagement. Studies are finding they earn the highest level of likes and reach versus other types of Instagram content. And I think this is a few fold. I know not only do I think that Instagram is, juicing it a little bit because they want people to use this new feature, but I also think that consumers want short form video. I mean, that's why TikTok took off the way that it did. So I do think it was very smart for Instagram to launch this feature. And I do think at the ultimately, the way that users are interacting with Instagram is showing that they are liking the video content and they're staying on Instagram longer with that video content, which is why Instagram is pushing the video content. So what does this mean for you as a brand is that essentially if you're thinking about where I'm going to invest time in creating content, it probably makes more sense to invest in creating Reels than some of the other forms of content because you will get more reach and engagement. So if that is your goal, I would shift your strategy to focus more on Reels content. Even though it takes a little longer and you may post less of it, I think overall it would be beneficial with the way that the algorithm is working right now. So brands are adjusting their strategies accordingly. Here's an example of one brand that's been doing it very well, Persona Cosmetics. So you can check out their Instagram to see their reels and how they post a really great mix of both UGC influencer content and their own content strategy together to really create an engaging mix of content that you can see is really driving that reach for them on their account. Next is Reels drive social sales and boost ad performance. So 84% say that they were convinced to buy a product based on a brand's video. Authentic, less produced videos beat polished, highly produced videos. We've been saying this for years, but don't spend money on using fancy cameras. I mean, first of all, the iPhone can shoot great content, but people also don't want that highly produced content that reads like an ad. They want organic, real content that feels authentic, not only to the platform, but that your product is real and that, the humans using the product are real people as well. Um, 61% want to see videos with real people before making a purchase. So back to stats that show that. And then an experiment by Creatopi, I don't know how to say their name, saw Reels ads earn double the reach and triple the impressions of TikTok ads. So I will get into ads also a little more, do more of a deep dive in a second. But essentially, keep in mind, TikTok is a very relatively new platform compared to Instagram. And even though Instagram Reels is new, Instagram knows ads, and their ad tool is a much more sophisticated than TikTok's ad tool. I think TikTok will get there, but right now Instagram's tool is more sophisticated. So I think that's why marketers are seeing better results in terms of the reach per dollar spent. And Reels make up more than half of content reshared into messages. So I think that's super interesting as well. Is that that content people don't always think about. They're looking at certain pieces that you can see publicly, but you can't see privately always. Who's sharing what where. But a lot of stuff is happening in the messenger section as well. So Reels offer conversion opportunities for brands. This is something that I think is different than TikTok. TikTok has not really focused on that yet. TikTok can drive sales tremendously. I have a whole webinar on driving sales with TikTok if you'd like to watch that one. And they can drive sales, but in terms of conversion tracking, they're definitely way farther behind than Instagram is. A few things that Reels has actually launched is the new product tagging feature, which is great, and the ability to boost eligible Reels as ads as well. So when I say product tagging, you've probably noticed if you have an Instagram shop, creators and your brand itself can tag the products in your shop on your Instagram grid post. You can now do that in Reels as well. I think the jury is still out on how strong the conversion rates are, just because still not only I think number one, users don't always shop through Instagram shop. I know even me as a user, like I'll still go to their website, or I might even like X out of Instagram and go search the brand. So there's still a lot of pieces of the funnel that are very hard to track, just because users are the user experience of these apps isn't for them to leave them. Instagram wants to keep them on the app, which means most of the time people are actually accessing and going to your website through other things, not necessarily clicking on these ads. But at the same time, Instagram does offer more of those than TikTok does as of now, those opportunities. So I think they're going to be investing a lot in Instagram shop in the coming years. But we'll see if they're able to really balance the fine line too of the fees and the different things that they're going to be charging brands as well. So more to come on that. We'll definitely, as Instagram launches those things, keep you guys up to date on them and maybe do a webinar on that in the future. Next is Reels ads basics. So there's three main types of Reels ads. So you have the typical ad. So this is where you go into your Facebook ads manager, Meta ads manager, and you upload the content that you like. You can put your call to action there. It looks like it's coming from your brand. Typical ad, and it comes right as people are scrolling. Every few, they'll see one of these ads. The next is a boosted action. So this is when you put it on your actual the feed of your account. So you can see this brand here, Milk Makeup, posted a reel, and then they actually boosted it right from there. So if you've ever boosted a piece of grid content or feed content that's static, you can now do that with Reels. So essentially, most of the time, the default boosting audience is just trying to show it to more people like your followers. You can also go in and customize that audience, which can be really beneficial as well. But overall, that's what this boosted action is. And then the third type is branded content. So Instagram calls it branded content. Some people call it whitelisting, kind of interchangeable in the marketing realm. But branded content is the concept of where you work with a creator and you actually get access to put spend behind their post. So you will notice the creator's handle is actually the handle there, not the brand's handle. But they are boosting it through there. So that is another option that you can do as well. So Reels ad basics. So here's the whitelisting versus branded content. I still hear most people actually flip these two terms, but we did a bunch of research, and actually whitelisting is the concept of taking a creator's content and running it on with your handle on there, and branded content is running an ad with their content on their feed but you adding money to that with the paid partnership label is what branded content ads are. So those are the two, I think, really creative type of content ads that we've seen a lot of success with, and brands having a lot of success with in 2022. TikTok does have these options as well. But like I said, I do feel like Instagram's is much more sophisticated for brands and for their targeting. Other things to note. So Instagram highly recommends running Reels ads containing captions and sound. I also recommend this even on your normal content that you're creating for your feed. That's because a certain percentage, I think. I might be able to find this percent. I think it's like 30% of people listen to it with the sound off, which means like you're essentially just missing out on all those people if you don't have the captions. So you might as well just add the captions with the sound, and then you're getting the best of both worlds there. With Reels ads, you can make them up to 90 seconds long. The Reels ad audience share is a majority male. So just in general, Instagram skews a little more male. Obviously, you can change your targeting to not be, but just something interesting to note about the Instagram platform. Skews slightly male, and then on TikTok it actually skews slightly female, which I'll talk about shortly. But then lastly, engagement with Reels rose 30% between Q1 and Q2, which resulted in $1 billion annual run rate for Reels ads. So Instagram doing pretty well with launching this product, and you can see a lot of people are investing in it in general, and I think that that's because of this engagement increase. They're really figuring out how to get people to engage with ads, and brands are running better and better ads through Reels. So next, perfect segue into Instagram Reels versus TikTok. So in general, TikTok is a video first platform. I mean, it started as Musical.ly, transitioned into TikTok as we know it now, but it really is video first. Now, I have heard several rumblings of them launching lots of different features, like even photo sharing as well. So it feels like TikTok is trying to become Instagram, and Instagram is trying to become TikTok. But at the end of the day, it's a very much a video first platform, where Instagram was not. It's part of a much larger suite of different types of content. And Instagram lets brands and creators tag products. TikTok's shopping features are just for brands right now, and they still have a lot of work to do on that as well. So what do they have in common? So as you can see, they look very similar in terms of both formats are short form video vertical content. You don't need a large following to go viral on either. I think this is something that's been so exciting as a marketer, that I'm excited about, is that the shift from follower count to creativity. Now, creativity is so much more important than follower count, because, I think 80% of viral TikToks are from non-verified accounts, which means like everyday people posting about that. So it becomes so much more important now to create, content that people relate to versus worrying about followers necessarily. Funny, original, entertaining content is prioritized, and content is served based on users' interests and previous engagement, like we talked about. So those are the similarities between Instagram, Reels, and TikTok. In terms of content tone and style, TikTok is very dependent on trends. So TikTok is more trend forward. Reels is a little less trend, more traditional how-tos, product showcases. TikToks are also a lot more off the cuff, a little bit more informal. Think of like all the videos of people talking straight at the camera. You get that a little bit on Reels as well. So there definitely is overlap, but Reels, you tend to see a little bit more polished content, a little more commercial like, versus TikTok that can be pretty rough around the edges, and also have a lot more trending and trends and type content on it. And then for ads, you can see a comparison here, which I thought was kind of interesting to see side by side. Paid ads are obviously an option on both, and it really just depends on your audience, like which one is right for you. But both formats make it easy to create content and to whitelist creator content. But you'll notice that TikTok, just even by looking at this, you can tell it's a little less sophisticated. They have a daily minimum budget of $20, and there is an experiment that said you get more bang for your buck in terms of exposure, but I think that I would say TikTok, you really need to nail the content for your ads to work. Reels, because it is a little more sophisticated, I think Instagram is a little bit better at figuring out how to get the reach with all sorts of different types of content, but TikTok, you need to make sure that content feels native. And now to the demographic differences. So like I mentioned earlier, TikTok skews a little bit more female. not tremendously more, but a little bit more. And same, Instagram slightly more male. It's almost even really on Instagram. I also think that like Instagram has a bigger user base, so makes sense maybe why it's a little bit more even, but something to think about when figuring out which one is right for you. But I think the bigger telltale sign of the differences here is definitely the age demographics. So you can see on TikTok, obviously the two biggest age demographics are those first two. On Instagram, it definitely skews a little bit higher across all of the different platforms. But I do find it interesting that even on TikTok, you're looking at a few percentage points in that 55 plus category. I mean, they are expanding into other categories over time, kind of like Instagram did as well. But if you are going after the Gen Z audience, yeah, you should be on TikTok. Some other differences. So TikTok has 1 billion monthly active users. Reels has 1.4 billion monthly active users. On TikTok, they spend about 1.5 hours per day on average, where on Instagram, you're spending at 51 minutes across all of it. So I already talked about the age group a little bit as well, but those are some of the high level differences between the two. Some other like nuanced differences is that TikTok is much more community driven, so they're big on community culture. They, you kind of get into a certain category of TikTok and you start seeing all these different creators in a certain very niche category based on what you've interacted with. Reels is a little more general. IG serves you reels that it thinks you'll like from the Reels tab, but there's no easy way to discover them the way that TikTok is. So TikTok definitely has that piece down. And then in terms of how long the video content is, they started being pretty short form on both platforms, but they've now made them longer and longer. So TikTok is now 10 minutes and Reels you can actually upload up to 15 minutes. So this is telling me too that they're wanting to give, creators as much creative freedom as possible by giving these really long form videos. And it also lends to the fact that they want to keep people on these platforms longer. So if people want to watch longer videos, they're going to give it to them, which is interesting. So I have a suspicion too with these longer form videos that they may start doing ads in the middle of them, similar to what you're used to on YouTube, for example, as well. So we'll see when that comes out. But if these longer form videos start taking off, I could see them also doing ad breaks too. Other things, once again, the trend driven on TikTok. With TikTok, trends tend to start there and bleed over to Reels, but they don't tend to start on Reels and go over to TikTok. So I think that gives a very high level difference right there. Also, content feels more polished on Reels. One thing that our team noticed that I thought was really interesting is that sounds on TikTok, when they trend, there tends to be like an activity or a video that goes with the sound. On Reels, you're looking at a sound trending, but all of the content can be very different. So it's just like the sound goes viral without it being attached to a trend, which is also another like interesting feature of Reels. So you'll see a lot of brands you can look up trending audio content and use that on Reels, but you can kind of do whatever you want with it. Where TikTok, it's normally attached to a very specific trend that you should be doing with that sound. TikTok's more music driven, and they also have playlists where creators can create videos about a topic. And then on IG Reels, you have, they're still catching up with some of the music options. They are catching up kind of quickly, but at the same time, it tends to pop up on TikTok first and then on Reels. So it is helpful if you do have the bandwidth to do both for your brand. Obviously, all the top brands are doing both, that you can kind of have somebody who's kind of overseeing both at the same time, because they do play off of each other so much. Other things to note that are a little different about TikTok and Reels: TikTok have a longer staying power. Instagram Reels is a little bit shorter staying time. We have noticed this going up as algorithm keeps changing and becoming more like TikTok's algorithm. But something to note too is that like I posted a TikTok years ago and it still gets random views, and it's years old, versus Reels. Like once you're past that first week or two, like you've already gotten, like most of all the likes and views that you're going to get. TikTok, we talked about video content does one thing really well. Reels has a lot going on. And then lastly, the searching feature. TikTok is really investing a lot in the searching feature, and I think IG Reels is starting to do that as well. I'll cover that shortly as well, so I won't get into it too much now, but super fascinating what's happening with social SEO. Now, what we've seen here at Statusphere in 2022 is TikTok took over this year in terms of loops, but Reels really took off as well. So we saw over 38 million loops with the creators that we work with on brand collaborations in 2022. So you can see here 23 million with TikTok and over 15 million with Reels. I do predict based on the trends that we're seeing that Reels will continue to grow into next year. But I can tell you for sure that both short form video content is our number one most popular content format of brands using our platform for 2022, which is not surprising after everything I just talked about. Next, now getting into that social SEO piece. So back in July, a Google executive shed light on Gen Z's attitude towards search engines. So as you know, Google makes a lot of money off of the fact that people go to Google to search things, but they're finding that 40% of young people, when they're looking for a place for lunch, they don't go to Google Maps or Google Search. They're going to TikTok and Instagram. And I think this is going to like completely change the way that marketers look at brand discovery and exposure. So this is something as a marketer that I think you should make sure to keep a pulse on as we go into the next few years, because every big platform has their time. Google has been the king for 20 years. And I think that it could be a time where it starts to get pulled market share. I mean, even Google is seeing it. Now, one thing Google is doing to combat it is they're launching YouTube Shorts so that they can have also video content in the search. But essentially, Gen Z is showing that they would much rather have a short form piece of video content answering their question versus what you get when you search on Google. So how the search results compare between TikTok and Reels, though, let's cover that. So on TikTok, you can see the top like tags. They add, social proof to to your experience. But then when you go into the search feature here, you can see like bread baking. Like you can go through and see all the different types of ways that you can bake bread. You can see this is a lot more engaging than a Google search. So like, what does this mean for marketers? Like that means you need to make sure that your brand is coming up if people start searching, skincare for acne into TikTok, which, I feel like I've done searches like that as well. You want your brand to come up. So definitely in terms of your overall strategy, it's a long-term play to focus on SEO, but it becomes so important why you need to create consistent content on these platforms. On Instagram, you have photo and video results. So Instagram is a little bit different where when you search on Instagram, you will see both photo and videos. Vertically shot reels do get the most real estate though, which not surprising once again, because they're pushing this. And I did see someone ask, you will have access to this presentation. We'll make sure to be sending that out via email in the next 24 hours. So look out for that. Next, on Instagram, you can filter by places, accounts, audios, and tags. And top videos have dozens, not hundreds of thousands of likes, where it's a very big, broad mixture, where as you can see on TikTok, they have thousands to millions of likes. So a little bit different. But you can also have filtering functions on TikTok too. So I'll show that. And I'm doing a little snippet of search SEO or social SEO, but we actually have a whole webinar on this. So I'll have Sam pop that up. Yeah, there's the webinar. So if you're interested in learning like a huge deep dive into the whole search category, feel free to watch that webinar as well. And we'll be like keeping a pulse on this as things update. And as you can tell, I'm very excited about this because I really think it's like one of the most exciting things that's happened in the marketing space in a while. And it gives brands who are smart the opportunity to really own some of these search categories and features. In terms of how they compare side by side in terms of search results, on TikTok, it populates by number of views based on hashtag, where Instagram populates based on number of posts, which is a little bit different. But it makes sense because not all Instagram posts have views. So they obviously wouldn't do it based on that. But it becomes important why you're using certain hashtags and things like that. So on both Instagram and TikTok, they both have a search bar display with predictive text-based suggestions. This is really key, and I would recommend if you are looking to optimize your content for this new for SEO search to look up what the pre-filled options are for your product category. So, maybe it's like best, vegan cheese, or top products for oily skin, or things like that. Start seeing what's coming up under some of those categories, and maybe take some inspiration from it, and also create some content around it with those keywords, so that your brand can also show up under those as well. Um, Only on TikTok, they've added a filtering feature where you can even see recently watched, liked videos. You can even filter based on recently posted videos versus most relevant and most liked videos, which is pretty cool. I really love that TikTok does that, because you don't have to only see the most best performing content. You can see it more relevant based on your own needs, of what you're searching for. And I think Instagram will eventually come out with that as well. And then one of the top questions we get: can I just post the same content on TikTok and Reels? Some brands do this. I get it. It's a lot of work to create separate content for both. But they do have very different cultures and trends. So when brands work with us, a lot of times they will, run a TikTok campaign and a Reels campaign at the same time with the same product. And it's so crazy to see the difference in the content. So like I said, TikTok is typically a lot more raw content, a lot different for the platform. The trends are different than the Reels content. So I do recommend looking at, I like the idea of having, definitely the same team or person overseeing both, but at the same time, understanding how they play off each other and are the same and different, because not everything that's posted on one should be posted on the other platform. So also another thing to keep in mind is that TikTok's videos are watermarked if they're created natively in the app. For a while, it was common to repost them, but Reels or Instagram claims that they derank videos that include the TikTok watermark. They're big competitors, so it makes sense. So I would definitely not recommend doing that. At the very least, do not repost TikToks with the watermark over to Reels, because it will just kind of sabotage your reach on that. And then native TikTok content tends to perform much better than repurposed content as well. Studies show. So now getting into some of the trends and tips and best practices. So how to make your Reels count according to Instagram. So they released tips on what they see works for Reels, for brands. So the first thing that they call out is that the first 3 seconds need to really count. And just think of your own experience on Reels. You're swiping. If it doesn't hit you in those first 3 seconds, you're already on to the next video. So I do recommend, taking time and spending time on Instagram Reels if you're creating Reels for your brand, so that you can start having that muscle memory, and even start noticing if you swipe on a brand or on a piece of content in general on Reels, what made you swipe? What were in those first 3 seconds? Because you probably don't want to do that. And then for the content that you do watch to the end, what happened in those first 3 seconds that really made you want to stay and watch? You can also do this by looking at, if you have a bunch of Reels content already on your Instagram right now, scroll through and look at your top performing and see if there's any common threads with those first 3 seconds, and create more content like that. There's no need to reinvent the wheel if you start seeing trends. Just keep repurposing those trends as well. Other things that Instagram recommends is frequent cuts and transitions to hold viewers' attention. So people have very short attention spans, so having very quick cuts can be helpful. Take full advantage of captions, hashtags, and descriptions. Like I mentioned, definitely recommend, if it's a voiceover, having both the captions on there as well, as having the audio. Content previews are huge. Especially now that we're moving into social search, content previews are becoming more important. So really think through what that looks like. It's kind of becoming what YouTube cover photos used to be like. Now it becomes important as well for Instagram, especially also if you're running ads on Instagram trying to get people to follow you on your account. You want to make sure your grid and your videos look good, and that when they tap on your Reels, they're like, oh wow, I can see what most of this content is, and it's valuable to me, and I want to follow this brand. And then other ways that are super easy ways to make sure you're getting the best reach for your Instagram Reels. Always repost your Reels on your story, in your feed as well, because that just helps to maximize the reach. So no matter what, at least for a little bit, post it on your feed. You can actually add it to your feed and then remove it, but definitely always post it to your feed to get the most reach, in general with it. And I see some questions coming through, so feel free to drop them in there. And at the end, I will go through them, as well with any time we have left. So thank you for that. Next, mind how you feature products in your videos. So hype up your products in your thumbnail, like we talked about. Make sure your product is clearly visible. Give viewers a virtual experience of your product, since they can't touch it, taste it, or smell it. So like, you need to make sure that's really coming across in the content. Even content, we'll talk about some content types in a second, but being able to see someone's reaction when they smell it, or when they put the cream on or things like that. Like those are reasons people watch the content and why people want that raw, authentic content. They want to see a real person interacting with your brand. Include that call to action. So let the viewers know, where they can find it. So it's super easy. You don't want to be salesy about it, but at the same time, if someone's interested in buying it, like don't make them hunt it down as well. And then share compelling details about your product as well. Like what is that unique selling point? Like why is someone going to buy your product over someone else's product? Like really think through that when you're creating your content. Or if you're working with creators, that becomes super important. Like what key unique selling point do you want that creator to talk about that's going to make somebody buy your face cream over someone else's face cream? And really understanding and owning that and making sure it's part of your strategy can make your content perform much, much better. Next, take advantage of Instagram's sound library. So they have a whole sound library, very similar to TikTok. Something to call out here is that brands do have limited access to the licensed copyrighted sounds. So if you are a brand account on Instagram, which when you create your brand, you can select if you are, or when you create your account on Instagram, you can select either a creator account, a brand account, or like a regular account. Some brands choose to make themselves creators so that they can use the licensed content. I'm not saying that that is the right thing to do. I'm just telling you what what brands do because it's a little bit of a controversial subject of like depending on brands' legal guidelines. But realistically, brands should be using, the royalty-free sound collection, which is accessible if you are a brand account on Instagram. And they are constantly trying to update that with more and more content so that you can stay on trend and things like that. But one way to also get the most out of being able to still stay on trend but not use those is, working with creators as well, and just where seeding a product out as well, just user generated content. Having creators post those, you can get on some of those trending audio pieces that are royalty included. And then what's trending on Reels right now? So whenever I do a webinar like this, I like to cover what's trending now just to show you it changes so rapidly. We try to pull these like the week of our webinar because we know they'll be outdated shortly. But I think by going through some of these, it's helpful to see real brands, how they took a trend and jumped on it. So we will be sending you actually all of these videos so you can watch them if you want to share them with your social team. Oh, great. And Sam just popped up the link there too. But we will be sending them again to you in the follow-up email. So I'll go through them briefly right now, but really nothing replaces just watching them. The first one here, these are all, by the way, small businesses or big small businesses that are using Reels and jumping on Reels trends. So the first one, it's a process video. They used a trending audio. Process videos are huge, showing like how to pack a package that you're an order that you're shipping out. Like those are really big. How your product is created, like any sorts of processes, have those quick cuts and really pull people in to see the final product. So that's a really great one that you can see in that link that Sam shared. Also, here's another one is the hacked phone trend. So there's a trend right now where it says, send me 10K or I'll leak your iCloud photos. Brands are now using this to show like all their beautiful branded photo shoot content and kind of clicking over to that. So it's a really great way to showcase your products. So you can check that one out. And then there's a trending song by Carly Rae Jepsen that's going on. It's like another one of those kind of process oriented ones that you can see that's been doing well for this brand here. A couple other ones, you want to see something pretty audio and then you show something pretty. It's pretty direct, but it's really cool to see how many brands are getting a lot of traction with this audio. The photo as a reel trend, this one's a little like tongue-in-cheek, kind of making fun of Instagram's algorithm and how they want to only show Reels content. So people are posting a photo kind of as a joke, but brands are jumping on that trend as well. And then the "this is why I don't leave my house anymore" trend, which is like a fun one. And I like, they normally show something they really love in their house or something, that hobby that they're really obsessed with, of why they don't leave. And there's a lot of ways that brands can jump on board there, just like this, I think, Harry's yellow bicycle brand. So so check those out. And what I recommend doing is every single, like monthly, as you're going, as whoever's managing and creating your content, like scroll through, spend some time each week or at least monthly scrolling through reels, and like just to get some of these content ideas and then you can apply them. Now you do need to apply them quickly because these trends will go out very quickly. So if you have any like legal approval processes for TikTok or Instagram, make sure they're short so that you can get stuff churned out, because that's how it's going to be top performing. So other things that to cover is like how to rank an Instagram search. So like I said, I have a whole webinar on this, so I won't go too in depth about it. But as somebody who, loves search engine optimization and also did that for a very long time, I like to geek out over this category. And now that, we're thinking about social SEO, you need to think about Instagram search just like you would with search engines versus a social app. So you want to identify relevant search trends to inform your social strategy. You want to conduct your own keyword research, just as you would for your website or blog. So keyword research is essentially identifying key phrases that people are searching for that you would like to come up for. And these key phrases should be things that if people were to search them, your product would be the solution for it. So you'll see like best detergent, and then those like autofill things like for clothes, for washing machine, for white clothes, for baby clothes. Those are keywords that if you create content around them and you're a detergent company, then you can hopefully rank for it. And this is the concept of search engine optimization from blog posts has been for the last, 10 plus years. Well, just take that and apply that to social search for both TikTok and for Reels. So think about that now when you are creating your content. Look up what is trending for some of these long tail words. I would even recommend using Google to see what people are searching for, because if they're searching for it on Google, they're most likely searching for it on these other platforms. And then some other things to make sure to keep in mind is mind your own video thumbnails. These are so important because that when people search, they're going to see the thumbnails and then decide what to pick from. And then similar to ranking in Google, consistency is key. Like this is going to be a long-term play. You're going to be creating lots of content, but then over time, a handful of them start ranking pretty high in the search engine. And then that can end up producing ultimately a lot of exposure for you and hopefully pull people down the funnel to eventually getting you sales as well. And then the more content you have, the more opportunities for discovery. So it's really just a numbers game, consistency and numbers game, to making sure that you're creating consistent search optimized content for these platforms. What's great though about the search optimized content is that it's also content that people want. They're searching for it. So going back to like how Instagram people want to be entertained, one way to entertain people is by answering their questions and by giving them content that they want and that they're searching for. So what's great is like these aren't mutually exclusive of just your typical reels as well. How-tos do very well. All these different types of content, as we're going to get through a few more of them in a second. They fall into both helping your Instagram search, and they're also helping you get exposure and drive sales for your brand. Some tried and tested types of content that I recommend for brands is first how-to videos. You can never go wrong with a how-to video, which once again goes right back to social search and it works well for that as well. But 48% of consumers report purchasing a product after watching a brand video, like we mentioned earlier. With more young consumers treating social media like the search engine, educational content is more valuable for visibility. And Reels serve as a prime channel for edutainment style content. So, if you have, a hair clip company, like how to get ready for a night out. If you have a skincare company, how to properly use vitamin C oil or things like that. So all sorts of like edutainment, did you know that vitamin C serum helps you do this, this, and this? Or did you know that this type of serum actually can be bad if used with this type of serum? Like all those type of things they leave the user now educated, but also remembering your product as well. So it's like a very great pulling people down the funnel and putting you as a trusted advisor for them. Next, explainer videos. So when asked how they'd most like to learn about products or service, 73% of people say they want to watch a short form video. Short form video educates potential customers in a matter of seconds. Reels can break down your products more effectively than written descriptions. And Reels make it easier for your potential customer to imagine your products in their hands too. So going back to people want to see real people holding the product, explaining what it's like to unbox it and smell it and use it for the first time. So those are another tried and tested trend that works well for brands. Next is reviews and recommendations. Can't go wrong with these, especially if they're authentic on real people. You don't. I wouldn't recommend trying to get a super polished video with maybe you don't need high end models. Like people want to see real people that look like them, that live like them, and that's what's really driving conversions nowadays. So consumers crave recommendations from fellow consumers over brands. 1 in 5 shoppers watch customer videos to see a product in action before they buy. I know me personally, I like so many times if I'm hesitant about buying a product and then I watch a few videos of real people using it, I'm sold because I'm like, okay, this is a real brand. This many people like it. It has that social proof. If I can't find those videos, a lot of times I kind of just wait, and I'm like, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. A lot of times I will search on TikTok for the brand. I will search on Instagram Reels for the brand to see what people are saying about it. So just know that customer journey, it's not a straight line. You need to make sure you have that social proof, and you need to understand that people are looking for content in lots of different places. So reviews and recommendations on social channels are becoming more and more important. So now I want to jump into a few examples of brands doing Reels right, and then I'll wrap up with some of your questions. So I always recommend if you don't already, make sure you follow any brands in your category, or if you see ones that I'm sharing here. These are also great ones to get inspo for Reels content, for your own content strategy. So first, I want to highlight Lunar Tides Hair. So they have a really creative strategy focused on consumer video. They have like oddly satisfying content, and they also do great answering questions as well. They're proactive with responding to comments, which is also another key. If you respond and engage with your audience, don't just say like, oh, thanks, or respond with an emoji or like their comment. Like actually take the time to write a thoughtful response. And it's amazing how that can spur actually more comments and also help you create a relationship with that person who commented originally. And then they do use frequently trending audio thanks to their creator collabs. So they do a lot of creator collabs too mixed in to get that social proofing. Next is Do, I guess is how you say it. Dough. I don't know. Duex. I know they're like a cookie dough company, so I'm assuming it's dough. Self-aware sense of humor shows off in the brand's human side, so they have lots of like quirky content. They definitely prove that personality is greater than production value on Reels. So once again, don't spend on production value, spend on the creative aspect. They regularly post behind the scenes content. That's always really great content that users love to see. And then they highlight how Reels can be used to launch products and drive in-store sales. So if you're looking for some of those examples, I recommend checking out their Instagram account. Another kind of viral one, you might have even seen this. I know I've seen a few viral videos from this company. It's called The Pink Stuff. It's a cleaner, also proving that like you don't have to have a super sexy product to do really well on Reels, as long as you're educating your customer, and you're also providing them value. They do tons of before and after style content, which is great for cleaning products. Their brand's product and positive reviews are always front and center, so they have lots of that social proofing. And they have great engagement with their view counts for this cleaner as well. So if you're looking for some more creative content to see like what's performing for them, I would check out The Pink Stuff. And then Grove Collaborative, they're in the CPG space. They do tons of trends like blank with me videos. And you'll notice, I bet they noticed that was working for them. So they started doing it over and over again. In that first 3 seconds, really grabbing people in. So like showing that, as you start optimizing, you can get more content like that. And then regularly post educational content to engage their eco-friendly customer base. And then lastly, Just Food for Dogs. They feature funny, heartwarming dog videos. I will say, I feel like if you're a pet company, oh my gosh, you should definitely get on Reels and TikTok. The dog community and the animal community on these is huge, and who doesn't like being entertained by cute animals? But they post tons of testimonial videos from real pup parents, rescues. They post behind the scenes, and they also do expert advice from doctors who develop their food, which is really cool in that edutainment category. And then jumping into why creators are so valuable. So like we talked about, you can't always use all those trending sounds, and it can be really hard to stay on trend, to spend time every single week learning all these trends. So working with creators is a great way to essentially augment augment the amount of content that you can repost on your social. So there's tons of studies that show this. So micro influencer engagement rates on Instagram are 1.75 times that of brands. So if you get a creator post versus your account posting, you'll actually get more exposure. Also, organic reach on Instagram fell 30% between 2021 and 2022. So, as Instagram and Facebook does, they give they give you all this exposure and then they start making you pay for it. But with the creator accounts, it's different. So although they still have, sometimes there's some creators that are annoyed with the algorithm. At the same time, these creators know what works, and your goals are aligned. Creators want their content to reach as many people as possible, and you want your content to reach as many people as possible. So working with them is such a great way to get a variety of content, really great repurposable content. And then it also, having people tagging you also really helps the algorithm. So there's just lots of benefits of working with creators. And then getting into like the nitty gritty numbers, I won't read through all of these, but these are like straight from Facebook, essentially proving that when you use creators with your business as usual strategies, there's tons of studies that are showing that your click-through rates increase, your return on ad spend increases, and you overall are reducing your customer acquisition costs. So Facebook knows this, and that's why Facebook is also pushing creator collabs so much. And then creators already know the latest trends. So like I said, like creators maintaining consistent growth and engagement means keeping up with the trend. So they know it better than anybody. So finding the right and authentic creator collabs is such a great way to grow your brand organically, effectively, and also create that social proof and authenticity. Also, smaller creators do tend to go above and beyond in creating trendy content for brands. And with the algorithm, like we talked about, where follower count is not as important, smaller creators are becoming more and more important. But at the end of the day, you have to scale it. So if you are looking for that, once again, contact us if you're hitting a breaking point and you can't scale your micro influencer marketing. One other thing I wanted to talk about too is that it brings your products to life. So you can actually, see the authenticity through it, see it with real people, working with real humans, actually holding your product, interacting with your product. There's not much that can really replace that authenticity. And then lastly, they help you post more consistently. So you can have your content strategy, but if you have a creator content strategy as well, you can mix in creator content with your brand created content to get a really great mixture and have less heavy lifting on the creative side of the time that you have to put into that as a brand. So like I mentioned, if you are looking to improve your Reels content or just, scale up in general, please talk to our team. I know Sam will pop the little link up there, so you can click that button to book a time with our team. We'll talk through. We can also get you on a demo of our platform to see how it would help you scale. But overall, we can help you. We help brands save on average 70 hours per month of brands that are doing this in-house, allowing you to focus on other things and really, it's just very tedious and time consuming. So would love to show you what we can do for you and see if it's a good fit. With that, I'm going to jump over to some of the questions over here. And we'll leave that button up to book a discovery call. So feel free to do that. And then also, if you want to sign up for our next webinar, I have here the next webinar. So there's our QR code. We're going to do a wrap up of influencer marketing campaign trends for 2023. So feel free to join us by scanning that QR code as well to get your spot locked in. We'll also make sure that email it to you if you can't join live like you are today. So jumping over to the questions, and I'll also, Sam, if there's any hot ones that you see have come up a few times, feel free to put them. Okay, let's see. How do you find creators over the age of 40? Finding creators in general, is tedious and time consuming. You can look up hashtags. So there's a lot of hashtags. You can also look up other brands that target creators of that age range, and you could look through there. That's a really great place to start. Also, if you are looking for doing some sort of niche campaign, we do have over 250 data points on all the creators in our network, including age. So we can target based on things like that. So feel free to talk to our team if you're interested in that as well. Have you heard anything about how editing outside the app impacts reach? I have not heard it impact reach any way negatively that I've heard, or positively, editing outside the app. Just the piece about, using TikTok with a watermark on Reels is the biggest no-no that I've heard, but the editing not as much. Let's see. How do you get your customer to do real reviews? So I assume, Jennifer, you mean like a customer buys your product and you want them to make a real review for it. I mean, customers, depending on who your audience is, may not know how to create super engaging content. So I would probably recommend with either working with creators, but I'm sure there's, depending on what your product is, some creative ways you could incentivize people to send in testimonial videos. But at the same time, you probably want to work with people who know what reels work. Like a testimonial video is one thing, but like a reel is a different thing. There are different ways to incentivize it, though. You can obviously do a full-on collaboration, or you could gift some product in exchange for it. There's lots of different ways that you can incentivize product reviews. So just a note that the collaboration feature will not work with the creator's sound that has limited copyrights. Yeah, if you have limited, like you can't repurpose a piece of creator content for ads, that's obviously copyrighted. So that is something to note. I see one problem I've noticed on TikTok and Reels is music. I will look at a viral video and notice it is trending, but when I search on both platforms, I can't find it. That is back to that copyright issue. So brands can't use the same audio as the other ones. Actually, Target went viral a few, like last year for this, like calling that out to say like, hey, give us some slack because we have to use the generic royalty-free audio. I will say both TikTok's really good at this, and Reels is getting better at this, of creating similar audio that's like, it'll sound kind of similar to the trending one, but it's not exactly, which I know is not ideal, but they are getting better at that if you go comb through their royalty-free music library. Let's see. Will you send a replay? We will absolutely be sending a replay, so look out for that in your inbox. Yeah, we'll be sending the full recording, so you can see all the slides will be in there as well. And then we'll be sending those example Reels content too, as well. I see Sam. My brand thinks we should be doing more of a creator rather than a brand on TikTok. Do you think this is a benefit since we can gain reach through our being authentic and building an audience, or do you think it hurts us because we're spotlighting the product and brand in every single way? I think that I guess it's kind of a loaded question, because I think really if your brand is on either of these platforms, you are a creator. Now, if you're saying technically a creator account, I don't know if that's your question. Whoever asked this, maybe if you can let me know if you mean technically a creator account versus a brand account, or do you mean like approaching it as a creator in general? Because if you're saying that approaching it as a creator, I do think as a brand you should approach it as a creator. But in terms of picking between, but yeah, approaching it as a creator, I do think approaching it as a creator is the way to go. It's kind of like, think about the old days of blogging. Like as a brand, like our blog is just to educate our audience and to be a thought leader in the space. Same with, your Instagram and TikTok should be similar. If you're looking to really build a large following, you want to approach it as a creator, build relationships with your audience, and stay on trends and ultimately entertain your audience. Like they need a reason to follow you other than just buying your product. So I would definitely, I like the creator mindset for brands for sure, when looking at approaching that. But yeah, if you have any more specific questions about that, feel free to shoot me an email. And I'll answer one last question. When you say TikTok takes views into account for SEO, is there a difference between paid and organic views? That's a great question. With TikTok, I do think that it's going to be mostly organic. Now, I guess I have to see if the boosted TikToks would count toward it or not. I have a suspicion that it's not as it would be more the organic ones, but I actually am not really sure. So we can look into that. But I'll have to even look up if TikTok is allowing the boosted posts. And just to clarify, boosted post means you're boosting an actual piece of content that's like on your account. So yeah. Cool. Well, if you have any questions I didn't get to, feel free to reply to the email of this recording and we can get back to you. I hope you all enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time for our Influencer Marketing Campaign Trends 2023 webinar, which will be in 2023, which is wild. So have a great holiday and we'll see you all then. And if you have any questions in the meantime, reach out and feel free to talk to our team. So have a good one.